Hi, welcome to our panel. This is the Sisters in Crime Middle Tennessee panel, and we are excited to have you. The theme of our panel is character assassination. When is the right time to say goodbye? I'm Ashley Sargent Hagan, and I am the chapter president of Sisters in Crime Middle Tennessee, which is the Nashville area. And Sisters in Crime is an international organization of sisters and misters who all share a love of the mystery genre. We have meetings and we do lots of fun things together. The chapter here, if you want more information, we are at sistersincrimemiddletennessee.com. And if you are not from these parts, you can check us out at the national organization, which is sistersincrime.org. And we are an organization that is also, it's writers of mystery as well as readers of mystery, which makes it really fun because it's not just a professional organization. It's an organization of people who just love the mystery genre. So I want to welcome Clay Stafford, who is our moderator for the panel. And he is, we know him as the founder of Killer Nashville, which is our very favorite mystery conference that takes place here in Nashville. We just had it in August, and I'm going to turn the panel over to Clay, who is has done basically a little bit of everything in the arts, but he can tell us more about that. Clay.
Yeah, hi. I'm not going to be the star of the show today. We've got Debra, Goldstein, JT, Ellison, Lisa Wysocky are going to be with us today, and there they are. And so they're the stars of the show. I am a best-selling author, but also the founder of Killer Nashville, a writers' conference, and JT Ellison was our past guest of honor this year. And there's all of you have such an impressive bio that I don't even know where to begin. We could take the first 15 minutes to talk about who you are. Let's just go alphabetically through this and just give us a little, let's say a viewer is turned in and they happen to know Lisa, but they don't know JT or they don't know Debra. Just give us a little hint as to who you are, and we'll start alphabetically. JT, let's go with you.
Hi, I'm JT Ellison. Clay, thank you so much for doing this, and thanks to Southern Festival. It's festival. I wish we could be in person, but at least we're together virtually. I am JT Ellison. I live here in Nashville. I write a couple of series that are set here in Nashville, and one is with a homicide lieutenant named Taylor Jackson. One is the medical examiner Samantha Owens. And now I write standalone novels, all of which have some Nashville connection. My latest is Her Dark Lies. Just came out this March. Yeah, just this March.
Very good book, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a lot of fun to write. It takes place on an Italian island, but it starts in Nashville. So that's me.
Yeah, everything has a Nashville connection, doesn't it?
It does. It really, it really does. It's the 6 degrees of Nashville.
Okay, and introducing one of the people who fills me with fear is the judge, Debra Goldstein. Can you introduce yourself there, Debra?
Well, I am Judge Debra H. Goldstein.
And go through all your accolades and your power.
I'll just say that I write short stories and I write books, and I periodically rule against Clay. But other than that, I am delighted to be here at the Southern Festival again and to be part of the the Nashville Sisters in Crime Group's presentation. I'm honored to be with the other panelists today. I write the series we're talking about today is a cozy series. The 4th book has just come out, and it's the Sarah Blair series. And I write about a woman who finds being in the kitchen more frightening than murder. When Sarah started out, she was married at 18, divorced at 28, and all she got out of the marriage was her cat, Rara. By the 4th book, she gets an education in slicing and dicing when someone in a friend's culinary school class serves up a main course for dinner. What it happens is Sarah doesn't mind learning some knife skills from her own sous chef, Grace Winston, who is her sister's her twins, her expert cooks, sous chef. But Grace is now teaching as an adjunct professor at one of the schools. And when her director ends up with a knife in his back, Sarah is asked to clear his name. So in order to do that in 4 Cuts Too Many, Sarah has to learn quickly that there's no time to mince words and there's no time to sharpen her skills when she has to find the elusive killer.
That's great. And you do a lot of volunteer work and education stuff, Debra. And I don't know if we want to even talk about any of that here, but kudos to you and thank you for all you do for the writing community itself. And Lisa, I see you on panels and things all the time. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Oh, wow. Well, as everybody has said, thank you, Clay, and thank you to the festival. I live in Ashland City, Tennessee. We're just about 20 miles outside of Nashville. Most of my books have to do with small towns and horses. I do write some nonfiction. I co-author with some minor celebrities and some not so minor celebrities. I also do some ghostwriting, but my mystery series involves Kat Enright. She is a 30-ish horse trainer who keeps stumbling over dead bodies. It's a cozy series. I'm thrilled. The 5th book has just come out. We've been optioned for film and television. I have been spending some time in LA with with our team. It's very exciting. It's a lot of hurry up and wait. The 5th book is The Rain Equation, and it's a trail riding book. So if you've ever been on a trail ride, you might find something of interest here. And Kat is kind of a loner, but she surrounds herself with a very quirky cast of characters, including a major country music star and a juvenile delinquent, a teenager with a trust fund, a mysterious barn manager, and a very possibly psychic horse. So it's a lot of fun to write. And
how does the horse communicate?
Well, she body language, mostly body language, and you know, it's just a ton of fun, and I've just really enjoyed killing off a lot of my ex-boyfriends in the books.
Which brings us in. You write many different things. JT, you're more, for me, when I read your stuff, it's more in the thriller type genre. Debra, you're more in the cozy. Lisa, you're more in the
cozy for fiction. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a little more grit to yours too than just mainline cozy. Let's start with you, JT. Before we get into killing, as just part of the process of the different genres that we're looking at, because we're going to talk about killing, but I think it's good to put it into context. Are there rules in JT in your particular genre or subgenre that determine how you kill?
Gosh, that's a really good question. I don't think anybody has ever asked me that. I don't know that there
I'm an educator, so I guess I'm a theorist.
You're a theorist. Conspiracy theorist. I don't know that there are rules per se. I think that, you know, what pulls all of our books together in the crime fiction genre is there is some sort of death that has to be investigated, developed, experienced by the characters. I would say, you know, if I'm writing, because I write different kinds of thrillers, they're all thrillers, but they're all different kinds. So if I'm writing, say, a Taylor Jackson novel, then the crime is the predominant storyline, and it's her solving the crime, solving the murder, solving, you know, a series of murders often. Whereas in the standalones, it can be a little bit broader. It can be a missing person or a body that's found that's decomposed, you know, that's been gone for a very, very long time. And the characters are more important to the story than necessarily the death, if that makes any sense. I don't know if that makes sense.
A lot of sense. Yeah. A lot of sense.
Okay, so that's, you know, my stuff ranges, you know, it can be a very visceral death. It could be something completely off screen. It definitely depends on which genre I'm writing in, which subgenre in thriller, how important that death actually is.
Yeah. Well, now, Debra, you have a little more confines that you have to work within, right?
I think that's true. I can kill them any way I want in terms of whether it be poison, whether it be a locked room murder or something like that. But I have to keep the blood at a minimum. I have to keep the violence off the page. And basically, I have to do, my confines are I have to be in a small town or a confined space, cozy. I have to build on the characters because you have to learn to love them. And the mystery and the death is important, but you're not going to kill your protagonist the first minute. And you're going to have good sidekicks, but you're going to have no sex. It used to be no curse words. Now there could be a little bit of a very minor thing, but anything like that is off the page. And anything that's going to be romantic for any moment, as a side part of the plot, the door closes just before it happens. I think that's the best thing. And usually in the cozy, there is the murder in the mystery is going to tie in with something that will bring our sleuth in. She's going to be more often it's going to be a she, but it's going to be amateur. And whether she is a baker, a cook, or something, it often has a craft or a tie-in like that. And so she may know the community that way. But sometimes there's no relationship, but it's a friend. And like the one I was talking about. And I think that's enough for me to say, because I think Lisa has taken it to the more edgy side.
Mm-hmm. And which segues us in, Lisa.
Well, a little bit, and I agree with everything Debra and JT said. And I think too, on the cozy side, and JT, you might disagree here, but I think with the cozies, there's one murder, sometimes two, but with thriller or suspense or in that genre, you could have a serial killer and you could have multiple murders and in the storyline. And I don't think you see that very often in a cozy.
Do you, Lisa? Do you prefer to kill your? What Debra is kind of defined what where she kills them. Do you prefer to kill them on screen or off screen?
Because I'm in the cozy kind of subgenre, yes, off screen, and I think the hook for the reader is the protagonist's reaction in finding the murder or in learning about the murder, and the reaction and how that affects her personally versus where you've got maybe a professional law enforcement person who is it's their job to come onto this murder and investigate the crime scene. As Debra said, it's usually personal or it has some sort of impact on their life in a personal, individual way. So I think they're more invested on that level than professionally.
JT, I'd like to see this on your bio on words. Where do you like to kill people?
In the conservatory with a canvas. Where I prefer it. It's so much more civilized. No, I kill indiscriminately at will. I kill when the story's starting to lag. The rule is bring in a man with a gun. I just kill somebody. It's just, but I do it. And
how graphic do you get in the thriller side?
It depends. It really depends on the story. It depends on the murder. It depends on everything. What the story will bear, what is appropriate, what I feel comfortable with. I've had visceral murders. I've had quiet murders. I do it on screen. I've had characters who are talking to you be murdered, and I've had characters who are doing the murdering. I think one of the big departures from moving in the thriller series world, where the cop is finding the killer and the killer is killing people and everything, into what I'm doing with the standalones, is it's an ordinary person that sometimes is committing this crime, whether they're defending themselves and somebody dies, or they're the ones that are wrapped up in the story and somehow that happens. It's the ordinary person that something extraordinary happens to. And those are almost more fun for me, because I think that's more what we would be dealing with in our own lives should, God forbid, somebody near us be murdered. So that's what I'm trying to kind of dive into, is the psyche behind what happens when that happens around you.
Well, Lisa, just kind of laying the framework of the entire genres that we've got going on here. Why does somebody always have to die? And what is the attraction to death? What's your opinion on that?
I think particularly with the cozy, I think readers want to know that tragedy can happen, but yet the world can end up okay at the end, that there's safety at the end and everything will be all right. And even with the cozy series, where maybe there are some loose ends that haven't been tied up, things usually resolve themselves. I think some of the thrillers and suspense and other books that I've read that have really impacted me are maybe some of the ones that haven't had those loose ends tied up and leave you kind of with an unsettled feeling. But those are the books that for me, I'm thinking about months later, because it's so different. It's just, you kind of think what could have happened or what might happen next. And with a cozy, the world will come around and everything will right itself and life will be good in the small town again and everybody will be friends. And the world will go on without the character that was murdered.
Yeah. Debra, do you think the murder is, from a reader's perspective, symbolic of something else? I mean, just the upside down world. Why are they looking? Why are they attracted to the murder? And is it symbolic of something else?
I think often they are. It is not so much, to me. It's not as much symbolic as much as it is a personal feeling. They want the evil of the world or the evil of the person to be knocked out. And if we look at our murders, most of us don't murder somebody in a cozy that people love. It may happen later, but it's usually somebody who's got some streak that readers say, okay, it's okay that they're gone. And one of the things we have to be careful of, we have to keep a certain group of people there. We can lose some of the, but we have to keep them in there because the reader doesn't want the whole world to collapse on them in the first 30 pages. So I don't know, my colleagues may have a more symbolic aspect of it.
I don't have a symbolic aspect to that, but an interesting point that I hadn't even considered until you brought it up, Debra, was in I think it was the third book. It's called The Fame Equation. I murdered a young rising country music star who everybody loved. And I hadn't even really thought about that. She didn't have any negative characteristics. It was the tragedy because she had so much promise. And everybody else who has died in my series has had, a good reason maybe why they should be dead, but not with her. And I think most of the readers, that the feedback that I heard from the readers was very different from that book for the others. And I hadn't even really put that together until just now.
Yeah, but I bet when you look at her, she wasn't one of your major sidekicks. She hadn't been in every book.
No.
And so that was why they could accept it.
Yes.
If she was a country singer that had been going from book to book and they'd seen her growth, they'd have been madder at you.
But that's really interesting too. And JT, I'd love to hear your perspective of this because, I think some of us have characters that maybe aren't working. Mm-hmm. And they've been in a couple of books, and maybe we kill off that character in a different way. Maybe they just fade away, or they move to Argentina, or they go somewhere where they're just not part of the book anymore because they're not needed or they don't work anymore. And I'm interested in that side of the murder or the killing as well.
JT, I've got a question. Do you think it's the attraction of the murder or attraction of bringing to justice?
Oh, the justice. I mean, it's absolutely, yeah, the murder is a means to an end. It doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to be something meaningless, but it is certainly the device that allows the characters to find some sort of justice, revenge, closure, any of those emotions that we're trying to evoke in the reader. We want them to experience that and to have some sort of satisfaction. To what Lisa was saying, with characters and Debra, the idea of a character, no longer serving their purpose, so you write them off or write them out. I would do the opposite. I would do that with a character who is serving their purpose. who I think the readers would just be, I don't necessarily think I would kill them, but just, really destabilizes the story when that person that they care and love about is no longer there. And it destabilizes the cast of characters, and it makes it so much more complex. And the conflict that comes out of that really is, because that's what happens, right? We don't always lose the people around us that we don't like. We lose the people that we love. And that's what we have to grapple with. And that's, I think, translating that into a thriller is an incredibly powerful way to help people cope with the horrible things that we have to go through. I mean, we have to go through some rough stuff.
So you literally do kill your darlings.
Yes.
Okay. Lisa, have you ever killed your darlings?
I have not, but in the most recent book, The Rain Equation, one of the main characters, there's kind of a surprise ending, and that character leaves. And I've gotten a lot of very passionate emails about that. And I think people are, as you said, JT, it really kind of stirs it up. It changes the dynamic. I'm in the middle of writing the next book, and it has changed everything. It has changed everything. And this character may come back, maybe not. We don't know yet.
Do you think the soap opera writers knew this way before we did? I mean, how many times did Victor Kiriakis die on Days of Our Lives, right?
Yes.
Well, and they can be dead for 2 years, and suddenly we found they were in a cave.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, they were. Oh,
Well, they had a twin, and they came back.
Have any of you ever done the Disney thing where somebody died and then they come back? They die in the last 75% of the book, and then they come back later on. Have you guys ever done? And if so, what was that character and what was the book? Anybody?
I haven't, but I find that very intriguing.
Yes.
Yeah,
It has to be a flashback.
I've had a serial killer come back that was supposedly
You
eradicated.
did? Which book was this?
From 14 to So Close to the Hand of Death. Those two books actually go together. It's the only world duology I have. So yeah, he's supposed to be vanquished, and he is not.
Okay, Debra, I know you're one of the sweetest people I know, even if you are a judge.
Yeah.
You are the sweetest people I know. What character have you killed in your books that you really thought needed to go?
Well, there's been several of them, but I think in the very first book, Sarah Blair, as I said, was married at 18, divorced at 28, and loses her luxury lifestyle because the rat, her husband, picks up with a bimbo. And at that point, the bimbo becomes a big part of the book. And everybody is expecting her to be the corpse. But we find on page 1 that, let me qualify one thing. As I mentioned, she has a sister who is a gourmet chef. And her sister, the twin, makes this wonderful rhubarb award-winning tart. And on page 1, the rat is found dead with obviously having had perhaps a taste of this twin's rhubarb tart. As a result, in One Taste Too Many, he's gone. And I think that was satisfactory to me, and the readers loved seeing him get it. And the irony is the bimbo is still around by the time we're in book 4, and she's going to be there next year and when book 5 comes out.
Some people just have survival instinct, don't they?
Well, some people are just annoying. They deserve to die, and they don't.
Do either of you two want to throw in a character that you just really loved to see go, and how did you off them?
Oh, wow. I've got one.
Okay.
It was in the first book, and it was a woman. And when I was, I don't know, in my 20s, I just happened to, in a workplace environment, I just happened to be around some women who were in their 60s and were very condescending to me. And it was just a group of women in general. And so I killed them all off in one character. And for me personally, it was very, very satisfactory. And
It's therapy, right?
it was great. It was great. And but as a character, she herself didn't have really any redeeming qualities. And she was just somebody who was very controversial in the little town, and people loved her or hated her. But even if they loved her, they understood she didn't have any redeeming qualities. And she was a lot of fun to get rid of.
The three of you are too young probably to remember this, but I do. Don't we look like a bunch of people on the Brady Bunch right now?
Yeah, that's how these all work.
The theme song is going through my mind as I'm sitting here. What is the most awful way, JT, the most awful death that you have imposed upon a character? The most horrific thing you've ever pulled out of your sick and twisted mind?
Starved her to death in a glass coffin?
Ooh,
oh, wow.
That one's a good one. What book was that?
The Cold Room. The Cold Room. I wanted to have a serial killer novel that didn't have any blood. And so that was the challenge I had set for myself. I'm like, well, how do you kill without blood? Well, strangulation, boring. Done that, been there, done that. I want to try something else. And so it happened to work out that his moniker is the Snow White Killer. And he starves them to death in the basement because he can't bring himself to murder them.
Oh, wow. What about
he can't bring himself to do it. So it's a passive death.
After that, I sound minor. Remember, I have to keep it off the page. So I'm either gonna, I think it's like having a motorcycle blow up.
Rat soup is pretty bad.
I try, but I couldn't poison everybody. So I have used knives, and I really like in Four Cuts Too Many, because I had to go learn about knives, and what I learned is the ice pick kill method, and you have to get a very sharp knife if it's going to work, and you have to know exactly where to put it. So I used a deboning knife. I was going to use a lobster knife, but I had to call one of the things. I'm sure you all have done background research too, but with me it's comical because I'm the one who always blows up my own kitchen stove. So I am like Sarah Blair. So, and for those of you who know, Birmingham, Alabama, where I live, has become a foodie world, and I eat out a lot. So a lot of the chefs in town have had a great time showing me their kitchens. And to learn this ice pick method, they all had so much fun taking out all their knives and showing them to me. And that's how I learned, leave the lobster. The little deboning knife can cut through anything.
I will one-up you, Deborah. I set my house on fire so many times that I have not had a stove in my house for 7 years.
You have me beat. I learned this year during the pandemic that if it says F8, you've blown it up. If it's F3, it's on fire.
There you go. I don't have a sense of taste or smell, so I can't smell if something's burning. So, I've set but I did start dating a fireman once. That was kind of fun. And I haven't killed him off yet either.
Plenty of excuses for him to come over. House is up on fire again.
But we built in
a whole story in having 7 years without a
Oh, it's amazing what you can do with a crock pot or a slow cooker. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, what character have you really? JT says, and she's correct. She likes to off some of the favorites because it does bring a lot of conflict. But what do you have a favorite character that you really hated to kill, but you did anyway, Lisa?
Yeah, I think the country music star. I think maybe that might have been a mistake because I really did like her, and I didn't want. And she was killed by drowning, and I just didn't want to have a bloody mess with her because I liked her, and I think I could see if I left her in. Now she changed the course of the storyline for many books to come because she left my protagonist a lot of money, and that has changed things. So it needed to happen. But
which book? Which book is this?
That's the Fame Equation.
The Fame Equation.
The Fame Equation. Yeah. But I think if I had to do it again, on one hand, I might not have killed her off. On the other hand, it really did work for the storyline, and
which kind of feeds into what JT was saying.
Exactly.
As well, that it does feed in. How about Deborah? How about you? Have you ever had to kill somebody that you just really didn't want to?
I had to kill the bank president who was also the city council president. I mean, in a small town, you do everything. I had to kill him in the second book, Two Bites Too Many, and I had to do it in the locked room situation. I really didn't want to kill him, but by doing so, it left me room to have growth in the bank, and it left me room to have different city council people come into play in later books. And so that to me opened more doors. And it also allowed me to introduce more of an involvement with Sarah Blair's mother, who you can hear that I'm a Yankee at heart, but she is a pure Southern belle who knows how to tell you to bless your heart and get away with it. So it was really important to have him die, but he would have been a good character because he was such a pompous person.
What book is that?
Two Bites Too Many, the second book.
That's the one with the rat soup, right?
No, that's the one where I bring in the rescue dog, Fluffy.
Okay.
The soup, rest in peace, is Three Treats Too Many.
Gotcha.
I love funny titles. It's just so much fun. It's so much fun.
I collect cozies, and I don't necessarily read a lot of them, but I just love the titles because they make me chuckle when I look at the bookshelf. JT, you brought up the subject earlier. What character did you really hate to see to go, and how did you get rid of them?
I have a bunch. I mean, I have a very hard time sometimes.
Like kill your friends.
I don't, and I don't kill my exes. I believe in karma way too much.
She looks for the good people and then takes them out because she knows that sells.
Yeah. But I had one character that I named after a friend of mine who had died early when we were growing up, and I thought it was going to be kind of an homage, and instead, when it came time, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. And that happens to me more than being able to go through with it, that I've become so attached to somebody that the idea of killing them I can't do it. And so they find a way to, get out of the trunk and, be all of that kind of stuff. I chicken out. This last book, Her Dark Lies, I ran a contest. Clay, you know this. I ran a contest on Instagram. I posted who wants to die in my latest novel. We had so many entries that I ended up picking multiple people. And boy, when it came time to get off them in the book, talk about hard, because these are real people that I've been having. They're so excited. They're like, I can't believe I'm going to die in your book.
And so I'm totally,
you are to die for,
I'm totally jealous because my publisher won't let me kill any real people, and at least in paper.
They have to sign a legal agreement about how they appear and all of that. And trust me, there isn't a soul on earth who will not sign that agreement.
Oh, I know. I have tons of people who want to be killed.
I saw it from Lisa Gardner. She does it every year.
I know.
Kill a friend, maim a buddy.
Yeah.
There is a woman in Birmingham, in the Alabama area. It's not in Birmingham per se, but there's an auction at another conference, Murder on the Menu, and she buys every author's naming right. And I did not know that. So in my very first time there, I was so excited. I had my Maize and Blue, my very first book. And she comes up and we take our picture together. And I think she's so wonderful. And I'm so thrilled. And I can't wait to put her in the next book, right? 6 months later, I'm at Malice Domestic and I was moderating a panel. And I always read everybody's book, so I can talk intelligently about you and question you. And I'm sitting there and I read the first book and there's Deb Blank. And then I read the next one and there's Debbie Blank. And then I read the third person's book, and they'd all been at this conference sometime in the last 3 years. Oh, now she's a pole dancer. And the fourth book did not have her. My book with her had not come out yet, but she was there. So I went back, and that's what I found out. What she does is she buys them all. And I realized we compared notes. We all had her, and as she said, I've been a prostitute. I've been killed 4 times. I've been a pole dancer, and so
Go to her.
And
That's
she's in every single one of my books if you look closely, because anytime I've been there, she buys. And the last book, I've even put her in advance because I knew I was going to be there.
Give somebody else a chance at her. That's funny.
Yeah.
Debra, have you ever had any characters that you killed that you were surprised when you got to it? You just got to that point and went, they're going to have to die.
Not so much that, because they all seem to fill in. To me, it's more the murderer. I get surprised that sometimes I've got the wrong murderer in my head. And that happened in the first book. I wrote it. I got to a point, I knew the rat had to die. And I knew somebody else had to die. And that fell in naturally. I think for a lot of us, the second death, if there's one, they fall in naturally. But the person who I wrote the book and I said, oh, this stinks from about halfway on. It just didn't work. And then I finally put it down. I waited and it hit me. You idiot. You've got the wrong murderer. You're trying to put the square peg in the round hole. I threw out half a book, rewrote it, and it worked. And that's when it got bought. And that's the book that got bought and is now the 5 books of the series.
Lisa, you ever had to kill somebody that you didn't see it coming? And
yeah, my second book is called The Magnum Equation, and it's set at a horse show at MTSU in Murfreesboro.
I love that one, by the way.
Oh, thank you. So I got about 3/4 of the way through the book, and I realized nobody had died. And I thought, well, we can't have that. So I went back, and there was a veterinarian there who ended up sitting in a porta potty, and somebody came in and shot her in the head. And it's a cozy, so we didn't actually see that happen, but I had to have somebody die, and I just liked all the characters so much. I thought I have to have somebody who in my mind is disposable, but yet still makes sense for the story, and she really was the only choice.
Well, just interjecting with just a little with me, I tend to side over on JT's, that I love getting rid of those people that we really don't want to get rid of. JT, who is the person you lost that you really, you're the most sad knife stabbing, whatever you did to someone? Who was it, and how did you kill them?
Lie to me. I had to kill. Well, I don't want to spoil it, but I had to kill
somebody.
A point of view character. I had to kill a point of view character in that story. That was awful. I've also, in that same book, I had to killed their baby. And that was really horrifying. And that's, goes into the rules of who you're allowed to kill. You can't kill kids. You can't kill animals. And, sometimes in real life, babies die. And the baby died of SIDS. And it was incredibly hard. And one of my best friends had just had a baby. And I wouldn't let her near the manuscript because I didn't want her, I didn't want to freak her out. But she had just had a baby. And my mind, I think all of our minds, it's how we work. We go to all the bad things that could possibly happen. We run through those permutations, and then we take those stories and put them in our books. And that's what I did. I ran through that permutation of what might have happened if something went wrong with that adorable, sweet little baby, and put it in the book. So that was probably the roughest. But that whole book, lots of things happened to people that didn't deserve it. But sometimes you've got to kill or maim or hurt people who don't deserve it.
You brought up I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's another difference too between the cozy and a thriller or a suspense in where Debra was saying, you really, it's tough to kill a point of view character in a cozy, but I think you can, and do it very well, in another genre.
Yeah.
Yeah. You brought up an interesting point. You said you don't kill the animals, but you can kill the people. Explain that a little bit.
Oh, I can't kill an animal. I can't do it personally. I couldn't do it. If we lived in a dystopian world and it was me and a deer, the deer might get away. I couldn't. And so I can't, I put down a book because he hurt the cat. And the whole premise was, revenge for hurting the cat. And he got him in the end and everything. But I can't do that. But people have free will in a way that innocent animals don't, right? Animals are so dependent upon us that kind of cruelty feels almost more visceral to me than the cruelty that we inflict upon other people.
Yeah. But from an academic point of view, Deborah, don't you find that killing the dog is different than killing the rat?
Yes, I do.
Isn't that odd, though, that there's a subjectivity that's going into that? Go ahead and talk, Deborah.
Because the rat, we know, just as JT was saying, the rat has something in his personality. He didn't have to act like he did. The dogs and the cats, and I always have a sub thing of animal rescue or animals in my books, and any of them. Sarah didn't start out liking animals, and by the time we're in book 2, she owns 2 now, and she doesn't know what she would have done without either one. And they're not always perfect. They're animals. But and actually they run her life, but she caters to them. Whereas she's controlled in a different way than the rat tried to control her. His was abusive. The animals are different. And the readers know that because they have animals or they've seen family members with animals, and they understand that the animal must be protected and the animal protects you in return or gives you love. Right. The rat only gave her misery. And I think that's the thing. We can kill misery. We can't kill innocence quite the same way.
I've read a book and no, it's not a very good idea to kill misery.
I wasn't going to go there.
That could bring a crazy nurse alive really, really quick.
There you go.
Lisa, you have anything to add on that one?
No, in the Magnum equation, I did kill off a couple of horses, but they weren't characters. They were just talked about that they had died mysteriously, and it was part of the main storyline. But they weren't, characters that in the book that the readers knew and had come to like. So they were just in passing. These horses had died. But I think there's a difference, in a cozy. There was a book, and I don't remember, maybe one of you remembers, and I think it was a cozy that came out maybe 10 years ago, and somebody had put a dog in an oven. And I think and I don't even know if it was a cozy, it was a mystery. And I think the author lost her book contract as a result of that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So probably somebody who's listening knows what book this was. And I learned about it at Malice Domestic.
Have any of you are you at that point ever in your careers where you want to kill your detective? Any of you?
I don't want to kill Sarah, but because I'm finally getting her to grow and mature. But it's fun to see the different aspects of her right now. Now I might want to kill somebody in a different book, but not this one. But it's funny, in short stories, I take a much darker viewpoint in a lot of them.
JT, you want to say something?
I want to say something because, and Clay, you probably know this. When I wrote my very first novel, which is now called Field of Graves, and it is the prequel book to my Taylor Jackson series, I killed Taylor Jackson. And my new agent who read it, and said, hey, I want to bring you on. And I think this is great. You can't kill her. I said, well, why not? He says, that's your franchise character. Like, what's a franchise character? I'm so, naive. But yeah, I killed her. I killed her at the end of that book. And so I had to rewrite it, obviously. And then that book didn't get published, and I had to go on and write other books. And then when I came back to it and I read that manuscript, and I was like, I killed her. Oh my God. So I was really happy to be able to resurrect her for the prequel. But that's, when we start that series with all the pretty girls, she has a huge scar on her neck. And so this Field of Graves is how she got that scar. And, you know, in the original iteration, it killed her.
Hey, there's
Wow.
your Disney comeback.
Yes. There you go. There you
Came
go.
back.
Yep.
I cannot believe it, but our time has flown by.
Wow.
If you look at your time, and just I want to compliment the three of you. Got a comment here that for the three of you guys, top level talent on this panel, and I couldn't agree more. So Debra, Lisa, JT, thank you for being with us today, and enjoy your Saturday and the rest of the Southern Festival of Books.
Thank you, Clay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Clay. Go Vols.